Hi everyone, my name is Melinda and I am the maker behind Mint Knitwear. Today I'm going to be going through my top 5 knits from 2025 and just discussing a few things about each of those projects. I, of course, come on like once a year to talk about everything and always have the goal to be on here more. So all these 2025 wrap-ups definitely got me inspired, but finally getting the chance almost at the end of February to do a little bit, and rather than going through every single project, I figured I would just talk about my top 5 from the year to do somewhat of a little catch-up and something a little more bite-sized for me to dip my toes back into recording. So let me talk through all of these 5 projects and then we'll see where we go from there. All right, so number 1, this is what I'm calling my Pax Cardigan. So I know I've discussed before that I have worked up a drop shoulder knitting pattern for a bunch of different gauges at and just the shape and style that I like. And so actually, oh geez, 4 of the 5 garments are based off of this pattern. It's not currently available. I just have not been able to get it tested and put out into the world, but hopefully everyone can tell me to do so. Just kidding. If you're excited about it, then that might be a little bit motivating in order to get it out into the world. So this is number 1 on the list. This is a worsted weight cardigan. Like I said, drop shoulder, sitting a little funny, not being worn. So a little bit cropped, and just a crew neck cardigan. I knit this one up in Wool of the Andes worsted in the colorway Seaweed, and it does have a double knit button band, and then all of the cuff and ribbings, cuffs, ribbing, and the neck band, the collar is in 2x2 rib, and I used my favorite bind off for that. It's a sewn bind off, similar to tubular, but you do it in a bit of a different way. Sorry, I guess it's similar to an Italian sewn bind off because you don't have set up rows or anything. But if you do it for 2x2 in general, you get that kind of like stitch that sticks off to the side because you basically have to cable in order to switch to 1x1. So this is a sewn bind off where you don't have to shift it. And so you get the nice rounded edge, and you can see it has gotten some wear and there's a little bit of pilling. I want to say I've worn it probably 10 to 15 times and there is pilling, but nothing too bad. And I haven't ever shaved it or done anything with this one. So the construction is the basic drop shoulder and then joined, where you start with the back and do kind of the trapezoid, work down, pick up for each shoulder, and then join to work the body flat. Since it is a cardigan, for the pullover versions, they do join to work in the round, of course. And then I picked up and worked for the double knit button band on each side. Excuse me. And then I wanted to do a really nice deep collar for this one. I will say that I did kind of have my buttonhole placement on the neckband probably over a couple stitches, so it's not perfectly centered, but I don't generally button this top one, so it sits open and it looks just fine sitting like that. Let's see, there are short rows on the shoulder to get a nice shape for the sleeve and make sure your cuff is sitting normal and doesn't have kind of the pull. I don't know, it shapes nicely to the arm so that you have a nice cuff that isn't pulling up on the bottom or the top or whatever. All right, I think that's about it for this one. And yes, got a lot of wear. It was nice to have during the Christmas season. Just a festive green cardigan. Okay, number 2 that I will talk about. This one is another cardigan, and however, it is not, this is the one that isn't following my Pax sweater pattern self-drafted design. We'll call it self-drafted now because it's not officially a pattern. So my magic numbers for my drop shoulders. This one is actually a raglan cardigan. And it's got a really fun kind of, it's not a basket weave stitch, but it is very similar with like a little waffle going on. Hopefully that focused on the stitch pattern. I do have it in the cinematic mode, so it's gonna always try to find my face. Yes, so this cardigan is Cascade 220 in the colorway Straw. And let's see, similar to the Pax cardigan that I just discussed, I did the double knit button band and then picked up for the collar. However, this one is 1x1 rib to kind of blend right in with the more waffly stitch. This one I have worn quite a bit, and it actually, surprising to me, because it does have the stitch pattern, there's quite a bit of felting. I will say that I've worn this under jackets and, sorry, not felting. There's quite a bit of pilling. There is a little felting. I'll talk about that in just a second. But I have worn it under like my winter coat and things like that. So not entirely shocking. I also haven't de-pilled this or anything, so I'd be interested to see what it looks like after a shave. Finishes actually in tubular bind off, set up rows and everything. And with some pilling and stuff going on. The collar, I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out. I did a folded collar for this, and so I was able to work, basically did the folded knit up, made a buttonhole, knit over the top, then make another buttonhole on the other side so that when I sewed it down, obviously there's an entire buttonhole and not just the one side. And then I actually seamed up the side. I don't know if that actually focused, but that's okay. I basically seamed up the side of the fold so that it's just a full collar there rather than having like the opening from where I double folded the collar. I did. So there were 5 buttonholes, but I could only find 4 of my 6 buttons. I bought them in like packs of 2 just from Michael's. They're the, I think, coconut buttons. And I did find the other ones, but I haven't brought myself to put them all on yet because I also need to fix some of these. I didn't do a very good job. So yes, some mending and de-pilling that needs to be done. But again, I've worn this a ton and it has been serving me well. I'll show you the one thing. I have some felting in the armpit. So we'll see if we can get that in focus. Yes, so you can totally lost the stitch pattern, which is a bit of a bummer. But this is more of a fitted cardigan, not as oversized, so it is right up in the armpit. And so it luckily hasn't really affected the fit or anything like that. And I have no issue still wearing it and everything, just like a bit of a bummer for longevity's sake, especially because, I mean, it is a non-superwash yarn, Cascade 220, but people also call it a workhorse yarn. So it is what it is. Kind of a bummer, not the end of the world, and doesn't make it unwearable. All right, so that's cardigan number 2 and most worn garment, 2nd out of 5. Okay, then my next most worn garment from this last year. Interesting. I didn't do this in a perfect order. I guess top 5 garments. It's not necessarily in the order of most worn. I'll correct myself there. Okay, so sorry, another one of my packs. This one is, again, worsted weight. This one is again in Wool of the Andes worsted, which is a Knitpicks yarn. I don't think I mentioned that for the green cardigan. And I kind of did a riff off of, is it the Lyon sweater or the Marseille sweater? A petite knit pattern that's like an oversized drop shoulder with the stripes on the body and on the sleeves. So yes, this one's nice, long, oversized. The different colorways for this garment, the main color is Shortbread, and then the stripe color is Merlot Heather, both in the Wool of the Andes worsted. Just another classic, easy to throw on, oversized garment. I did do a folded neckband for this, however 1x1 ribbing. And then same deal with the short rows at the top of the shoulder, and then a pretty, haven't trimmed all the ends. They are woven in, but just not all trimmed. A nice sized cuff with, yes, tubular bind off. So set up rows with the sewn bind off at the end. Again, I have not done any kind of depilling or anything on this sweater, but I feel like it is still in pretty good shape and have worn it between 5 and 10 times, I'd say. But yes, just a very nice sweatshirty kind of deal for this one, but always a little more put together than just a plain sweatshirt. Okay, then, so those are all 3 worsted weight. Interesting. Up next, I'm trying to decide. I have 2 more. Which order do I go in? I'm gonna save my most worn for last, and then I'll talk about one that I haven't actually worn but is still in the top 5, and you'll understand why. So this is my first fully hand spun sweater. Yeep. So, very proud. I got into spinning this last year. Has that been since I've posted anything? No. I think I posted one just when I was starting to spin, but before I got my wheel. So in the last year, I did start spinning, and then I got a wheel. I started dyeing yarn and fiber, which that's actually what you can see behind me. I'll put the link to my shop below if anyone's interested. But I had dyed before just for my own uses, and then I was curious about dyeing fiber because I had never done that before. So I gave it a little test out, and this was one of my first like full sweater projects with hand dyed fiber. Sorry, this was my first sweater quantity that I dyed myself, spun up myself, and knit a garment out of it. So this is again my Pax Pullover pattern. This one I actually did a couple interesting things. So I had 4 braids and I spun them up to be about a DK weight. So in general, I'm like a size 3 or medium, sometimes more on the large if I'm going more oversized. 1 second. Yes, sometimes leaning more on the large side if I want it to be more oversized. So I can eke out a DK weight sweater with 4, but it's always going to be a little more cropped. Sorry, with like 4 skeins, 100 grams each. But it's always going to be a little more cropped than, and not like oversized and long and everything. So I knew I would have enough to create the garment, but I was going to be playing just a little bit of yarn chicken. So when I created this sweater, I started the standard way, cast on for the back, pick up, and then I knit through until I finished a skein at a certain point. And then I didn't actually do the short rows for the sleeves, and I did more decreasing than usual, so they're a little bit more they're not tight fitting sleeves, but they're more tapered than some of the other ones that you saw that are more billowy, kind of like this, where I have a lot of extra room in the sleeve, which is generally what I go for. And then, pardon me. Oh geez. We're good. Okay. Excuse me. So that's generally what I go for, is bigger, boxier sleeves. Sorry. And then for the neckband, I did want 2x2 finishes again. And I actually did a little welt. So picked up, did the little welt, and then 2x2. And I was trying to decide whether I wanted more of this funnel neck, or my plan was probably to do the double folded collar. I haven't sewn it down yet, so I still haven't quite decided. Also, like I said, I haven't actually worn this one. I don't know. Sometimes I'm precious about knits. I will say this is like exciting for me because it's hand spun, but I'm not always like it's not exactly my color palette, despite the fact that I dyed it myself, but this was pretty early on, so I was still learning, so it is, I don't know. It's not something I would grab for every day, and I do feel a little more precious about it because it is my first hand spun sweater. So I think I will wear it sometime, someday. Sorry. I think we're okay. So like I said, I'm a little more precious about it. I'm not sure if we got cut off. I had a pop-up. But I think I will wear it. Probably. We'll see. If not, it's still exciting. I don't know. I'm still proud of it. Yes, I think that's about it. I guess it's Corriedale fiber. Just 100% Corriedale. 2-ply was I did a 2-ply. And no real major method. I did spin it up during Tour de Fleece last year, which was fun. Sorry, now I'm just trying to remember random details. But yes, I think that's about it. Really proud because, of course, getting into spinning has just opened up a whole new world in my making and a business now, which is wild. So that's exciting. All right, let's finish up with our last one for today. And this one is by far my most worn knit ever. I wear it at least once or twice a week probably, and I finished it right at the beginning of fall this year. Maybe it was over the summer. Now I can't quite remember. But yes, just my most worn knit ever. Like more than even like a hat or a scarf or anything that you wear multiple times. And it's a pullover, the Pax Pullover. Sorry, again, maybe someday. But yes, so classic drop shoulder, my personal favorite, and just super basic. So this one is knit up in one of my new favorite yarns as well that I discovered this last year, and it's Knitpicks Woolen Cotton. So I have talked about this yarn before. It was in my last episode when I knit my Moonset tee. Sorry, not Moonset. Which one is that? The Clay Tee by Ozetta, which is the like garter stripey. It's not striped. It has like garter ridges. There we go. So that clay tee was in a gray color of the woolen cotton, 50% non-superwash merino wool. I think it's merino. I have a label right here. I'm going to check. Yes, 50% merino wool, 50% Pima cotton. It is a DK weight, and it is just an excellent yarn. Like it's so wearable. It's so durable. Like I said, I've worn this 30, 40 more times, or maybe more times than that. Yes, so wear it all day, playing with the children, chores, doing all of that, under jackets, on and off. Like I wear this like I would a sweatshirt. But of course, just that little bit more polished, being a hand knit garment versus just a cotton sweatshirt. So you can see there is some, just the most minor pilling for the amount of wear that this has gotten. And yes, just the tiniest bit, which blows my mind because I have not been gentle with this in any capacity. Basic edges that I like to use, 1x1 rib. I can't tell. Yes, tubular bind off, not just Italian. Apparently I've been doing that a lot lately, and it's on all my successful knits. Yes, so I have this one. The colorway for this is a super dark, a bit heathered green called Holstein Heather. Yes, Holstein Heather. And it is just, I love green. I love simple things that I can put on. Like this is basically, I have all in my closet. I have my hand knits all like in piles on a shelf. This one, I don't even think it gets in the hand knit pile. It just like stays hung up or like laid on the other side with just my like everyday sweatshirts and things that I wear as a stay-at-home mom. And it doesn't even like get folded all the time because I just wear it and then a few days later put it on again, or maybe the next day, it depends. But anyway, it just is great. I love it. And I am knitting another one in a brown color. I've kind of stalled a little bit, but oh well. Because I would take one of these in every single color, similarly as you would your favorite just cotton crew neck from Target or whatever it is. So love it so much. Just a basic stockinette sweater, so not always the most exciting to knit, but worth it because of how wearable, and I've gotten so much wear out of it. And yes, so this was the best thing I made all of last year because of how much I wore it. Obviously very proud of my handspun sweater because of the fact that it's handspun, but I'm most excited about this because it's just great. Couldn't ask for anything else from this sweater. And I would love to make more garments because I would love to make more garments out of this wool and cotton. It's just such a great blend because you get the benefits of the wool. It is like a little bit heavier because of like heavier weight wise because of the cotton, but since it's 50-50, it's not as heavy as a fully cotton garment. And it's really wearable in the transitional months and in the winter time because generally I'm not outside a ton, and so even when it's frigid here in the Midwest, I'm inside with the heat on, and so having something with the blend is really great because it just goes inside and outside really easily. So yes, those were my top 5 garments for the year. Yes, and then I guess just before I leave, what I'm wearing, another self-draft. It's a half fisherman rib. This is one that I modeled off of a ready-to-wear garment that I had. This one's knit up in Pearl Soho good wool. And I will say there's definitely more wear on this than I would expect for how much I've worn it. I've worn it a handful of times, but it pilled almost like before I even put it on the first time. So not sure that I would go for this yarn again, even though I know others, it's like their favorite desert island yarn. So I don't know, that's just, we're all different. We all have what works for us. But yes, let me think. That covers it for these top 5 garments. I hope you enjoyed popping back on to my channel, and famous last words, I hope to be back sooner. But of course we'll see, just with schedule and life and everything. But yes, if you want to check out some of the yarn and everything, yarn and fiber that I have, I can link my website below. We do have stuff in stock, as you can see behind me. But But otherwise, I will hopefully catch up with you again soon, talk about some things that I'm working on. I do have exciting stuff going on with the business. I'm doing my first in-person market, prepping for that. Sorry, got cut off the last like 5 seconds, but oh well. What was I saying? Just wrapping up. So yes, those are my top 5 knits from last year. All making the cut except one because they were my most worn by far, and then obviously my Handspun for mostly apparent reasons. Yes, so if you want to keep up with me, what's going on, more details about the market coming up in just 2 weeks, then check me out over on Instagram. I'll also put my website and all the other links below where you can find me. And famous last words, hope to see you soon here on YouTube. So thanks for checking this out, for staying till the end in my dusting off the old cobwebs, but we made it through, and I hope you enjoyed taking a look at my knits. So I will talk to you again hopefully very soon. Until then, happy knitting, have a great day, time, whatever. All right, bye.